Okay, so let's go a little further here. I'm assuming there were no issues with the earlier videos and understanding what was going on because you didn't ask me any questions. So now we're going to go ahead a little further into this. I made you the other video to jam over using the F minor 7 and the B flat 7, so you know all about that. So let's discuss, and in case you didn't notice, what we're going to do is that New Coat of Paint has 4 chords, the F minor, B flat 7, D flat 7, and C7. So we're just creeping up on it 1 chord at a time. We started with the F minor 7. Now we're going to go from the F minor 7 to the B flat 7 and see how those 2 chords work together. Okay, so when we're jamming on the F minor to the B flat 7, they have some notes in common. They have the F note in common, that's in both the chords, and the A flat is in both the chords. And we can play that F to A flat here and here, or down here on this F to A flat. So if you wanted to be totally safe and boring, you could just jam on those 2 notes in both of those octaves. Okay? And that would totally work because that's going to totally harmonize with both of those chords because both of those chords have that note. Now let's just talk about improvisation in general. There's different devices that are commonly used. One of the most commonly used devices in improvisation is a sequence. And what that would mean is we have the notes of the pentatonic that we're using. Right? You're totally familiar with that. So a sequence would be like a repeated pattern. I'll give you an example. So if I were to start up here at the highest note of this pentatonic and play that twice, play this one once, okay? And then if I was to go down to the next 2 notes, starting on this one now, play that one twice and this one once, putting that together we would have. Now I'm going to start on this one, play that one twice, and go down to the next one. Getting the idea? Now this one twice. Now this one twice. And now that one twice. Okay, that would be an example of a simple sequence. As I said, they're commonly used in improvisation, and the variety is sort of limitless once you begin to understand how they work. So if I was to put that entire sequence together, it would sound like 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now just to give you another example, now this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to once again start on the highest note and work my way down, and I'm going to play the high note, go back, and then play the high note again like this. Now I'm going to go to the next note and couple that with the next lowest note and do the same thing. And now starting here, and now starting here, so on and so forth. So all together that would sound like 2, 3, 4. Okay, and as I said, you can limitless variety. You can play notes, sequences that have more than 2 notes. I could go 3 notes, go down 3 notes, and then go once again to the next note and go down 3 notes from there like this. Now start on this one. Now start on this one. And now on this one. And now on this one. Once again, all examples of sequences. The other thing that I want you to notice in those sequences is that there's space and room to breathe. A lot of times when people are improvising, they're afraid to leave space. Space is great. Space creates interest. So when I play those, there's space there, space there. Keep that in mind when you're playing notes, when you're improvising, that space is just as important as playing a bunch of notes. It's kind of like having a conversation and not rambling. Like when you speak, you tend to pause at certain places in your sentence, and that makes it more easily understandable and more interesting. We've heard people who just ramble and they're boring. We want to just shut them out. Well, that's an example of how beneficial space can be in communicating with music or with words. So we've talked about 2 things. First of all, that we want to understand that the F minor to the B flat 7, chord tone wise, they have those notes in common, the A flat and the A flat and the F, A flat and the F. Okay? So when we're playing this chord progression in a few minutes, I'm going to jam over it. I will use those notes to start, but then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start to play the other notes in the pattern in more or less a random way. And I'm also going to incorporate some sequences, so see if you can notice the sequences when they happen. Also take note of the fact that sometimes I'm playing just the chord tones, but sometimes I'm playing the other notes that aren't in the chords, and these create that tension that we talk about. Okay? And just to take it a little further, we discussed last time which notes are in the F minor, so I'm assuming you're clear on that. The notes that the F minor and the B flat 7 have in common, as we said, are the F and the A flat. But the B flat 7 also has this B flat note in it. Makes sense, right? B flat 7 has a B flat note. That note is not in the F minor 7, but it is in the B flat. So if I was to play these 3 notes, those 3 notes are in the B flat 7 chord. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and start I have the video at 1 minute 59 if you're curious where the chords actually start, if you wanted to, like play them over again in order to, just jam on them more than once. It's at 1:59, so I'm going to start that and I'm going to play that as my background and jam over that. So I'm going to let that sink in a little bit, which is always a good thing to do when you're improvising. Get into the groove of the music, get that beat in your head. Notice the use of space there. Here comes a sequence. Okay? You notice I'm landing on the F note a lot when I'm done with my phrases, because that's strong. Okay, now, and last thing I want to talk about is the idea of phrasing. Once again, likening it to human speech, we tend to speak in phrases. We don't tend to ramble. We have a thought. We express that thought in a clear way. When you're improvising, think of your notes and your playing as phrases. Okay? Say something with the phrase. There's your phrase. It's a short phrase, only 4 notes. Nothing wrong with that. Your phrase can just be 1 note. Okay? You can just ramble right down that pentatonic. Okay? So that's an example of a longer phrase. So that takes us a little further into it. I hope there's some new thoughts there for you to think about. And once again, you got that backing track. So when you get to that, where the chords start, like I said, on my YouTube, it was around 1 minute 59, 1 minute, whatever. Before you start playing, get that groove in your head and make sure that when you're playing that background track, that it's loud enough for you to effectively hear that while you're jamming, because you want to be paying attention. Try not to get completely lost in what you're doing. That's why when we first started this, I talked about really becoming familiar with those notes so you don't have to think about it. It's very important when you're improvising to be totally in tune to the background, to the people that are playing rhythm for you. It's a team sport in that regard. So keep that in mind too. And any questions, you know where to find me.